evening, Crypt Keepers, and welcome to a special episode of Cryptique. In the corner to my right, he stands at 6'5" and weighs in at an undisclosed weight, hailing from the gateway to the In the corner to my right, he stands 6'5" and weighs in at an undisclosed weight, hailing from the gateway to the west. Ryan, Lil Kong Bundy, what's up, brother?
Not a whole lot, man. That is, I didn't see that. I didn't expect that. I knew we had some wrestling stuff in here, and I was surprised that you hadn't mentioned anything about it when we were texting earlier. For those of you listening, I was stopped one time walking into the Fox Theater in St. Louis by a security guy who just looked me dead in the eye and said, "King Kong Bundy." And I just repeated back, "King Kong Bundy," and he goes, "Spit an image." And I had to look him up again. I was like, oh my God, he's right. I tried to find him after the concert and I couldn't. Anyway,
I'm much better looking than King Kong Bundy.
I hope so. King Kong Bundy looks like an egg wearing a leotard.
Yeah.
Or at least he did back then.
He looks like the guy from Goonies, kind of. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't just pummel that guy that said that right there. Was he a big guy too? Or?
No, he was about my height, but he was kind of skinny.
Mm.
No, I was just so shocked by it. I was like, King Kong Bundy.
All right. Haven't had that yet. I don't think people would. I mean, people might say I look like Jimmy Hart, the mouth of the South. That's about it, though. I don't think I'd get accused of looking like a wrestler. But anyway, thought that would be funny. So let's get into it. What are we talking about tonight?
Tonight we explore a decades-long investigation led by Jon Stewart, not the comedian, but a researcher who's dedicated over 20 years to unraveling the mystery, or enigma, you might even say, around the authenticity of a VHS tape that allegedly captured the interrogation of a gray alien back in 1991. Stewart was intrigued by the tape's realistic portrayal and consulted experts who found no obvious signs of forgery. Astonishingly, he connected with medical and military personnel involved in the alleged interrogation, only to later discover a group of disgruntled insiders from Area 51's S4 facility claiming responsibility for the leak. So, join us as we navigate through Stewart's journey and his compelling conclusion that the tape is indeed authentic, or at least probably, and leaked by an insider known only as Victor.
Start off the illustrious one, Jon Stewart. Welcome to Cryptique. How are you?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Well, the illustrious one is, that's part of your background too. That was a cool character. And so, I mean, I think keeping the illustrious one is a good thing. Now, if you had some kind of, weird title or some, crazy Kenny or something like that, you wouldn't want to keep that. But
that's a good point. Yeah. Illustrious one is very British and, makes you feel like, some kind of royal ship in the 1800s, cruising the South Seas.
Well, I was going to say, I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed lately. That sounds like somebody who'd be pulling the strings of some multinational cult back in the day.
Yeah, right. Sitting in a high-back leather chair.
Dying to talk
in a castle in Germany.
Right.
So,
did somebody ask a question? I'm sorry. Okay.
No, that's okay. Now, I was just going to say, before we get to the video we're all dying to talk about, can you just give us a background on your life as an athlete and a politician?
Yeah, sure. Grew up in the city of Chicago, the far northwest side. Great middle-class neighborhood. Played high school football. Took a walk-on, invited walk-on. Get your grades up, get a scholarship next year deal at Memphis State in 1985, which is when, and I took that because I knew wrestling was popular down there, and it was like the mafia back in the mid 80s.
Sure
and I'm not
enough.
even joking.
No.
There wasn't judge, go to our wrestling school. And, you literally had to figure out and finagle, I'm not going to say scam, but finagle a way to meet a wrestler, meet a promoter, then convince that person that you're serious enough to guard the secret, and then be put through the harassment, the hazing, like a fraternity, and then go through the training. And Buddy Wayne, not the current Buddy Wayne, but the Memphis legend, Buddy Wayne,
Mhm.
who was one of the best storytellers ever, trained me like he was trained in the 50s. True
Mm.
story.
Hmm.
And he was trained in the 50s, how they trained in like the 30s and 40s,
Right.
or the late 40s, just as the Gold Dust Trio started to put together spots and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I am very proud to say I was trained like a probably a late 30s, early 1940s pro wrestler, mixed in with some modern stuff. And I did that to full time till 93. My biggest stint was with Vern Gagne on the AWA,
Mhm.
ESPN. And I did a promoting for 10 years and was an active talent. Wrestled
Mhm.
every name in the book. Our promotion had the still to this day the largest one-day payout for an independent wrestling promotion, which we paid The Rock $32,500 for an appearance in Brooklyn in 2000, and so very proud of that.
Mhm.
And ran for Congress in '99 and the 2000, and then ran for governor in for Illinois in the Libertarian Party in 2000 and for the 18, and then was requested to be a fill-in candidate for Secretary of State last November. Or God, I think it's even been a year now. Well, anyways, in 2022, in November of 22, I was a replacement candidate for Illinois Secretary of State for the Libertarian Party because their candidate got booted off the
Mhm.
ballots. And I've been in the businessman in the real estate in the automobile industry for 30 years. My family was in the automobile industry, and now I am semi-retired and doing crazy things like investigating this bizarre alien interview.
Well, you've certainly led a magnificent life. I mean, getting
Yes.
to play college football is people don't understand, well, maybe it's not the NFL, but there's still 80,000 people at those stadiums. So,
Yeah.
it's a big deal, and it's just gotta electrify you when you walk out there, and, whether it's wrestling or football or,
Yeah. I've been
you
very
know,
blessed.
coming on a
I don't know
podcast
if I
that,
saw.
you've
Yeah.
you gotta get your energy up and be ready to rock.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if it was early on in my life. I just saw a bunch of 40 and 50-year-old men. I am not saying this to be cruel or mean. I'm just saying this as a very a joy. I'm glad I observed this. I just observed a lot of men in their middle age not happy. Not my
Yeah.
and my father was the antithesis. My father was in the car business. He was great at his career. He always made money. He was always happy, which is really cool to see your parents always in a
Yeah.
freaking good mood.
Yeah.
Not to do because they're insane, but because, they're doing well and they're just, made a happy life. And so, but I saw a lot of men that were not happy. And I especially saw that in the wrestling business, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Um, when you start off in these smaller promotions, I started off in Jerry Lawler, Jeff Jarrett's dad.
Mhm.
Jarrett's Memphis promotion, and it was a great. We wrestled in big arenas at the time, believe it or not. But there were, guys just starting and guys finishing up their career, and the guys finishing up their career were not very happy. Were not in a good place. Most of them
Mm.
were divorced one or two times, living in
Yeah.
a crappy apartment. And that had a negative effect on me of not really being maniacally motivated to keep calling and knocking on doors and
Sure.
going to the back of the arenas and really promoting myself.
Sure.
And again, I don't fall off your chair. It's a pro wrestler that's taking accountability and blaming himself. So, you know, they don't do guy guys who are still alive, who are my colleagues, don't take blame a lot. But
Yeah.
so to answer your question in a long story, I just thought, look, I'm going to go do everything that comes to my mind with as long as I can still make money as a business person and take care of my family, and if I can make money in these other avenues like wrestling or so be it, great. And so yeah, I just was very blessed to have this mindset of you look, this is not a dress rehearsal. You go one time around, go out and do it. And I had this alpha male personality. So, and I
Mhm.
had a psychologist that told me, look, I have a personality where I swing for the fences. So how can you think you're going to run for governor and win? You've never even won and in politics. Well, that's maybe my ego or my personality says, no, swing for the fences. Sometimes lightning can strike. So I've
Absolutely.
tried to do
Ryan,
some crazy things.
Ryan would have it so much better off now. He's on the Illinois side. If you were running things, I think he'd be a lot happier.
Probably, yeah. I think it would be.
What? Oh God, I didn't want to even get started. All I know is I was the first candidate to have legalized marijuana on my website. All the Democrats and Republicans told everyone I was crazy. I was going to start drug wars. It was going to be the downfall of Illinois. And then all of a sudden, Governor Pritzker, when he was running against me, said, how much money do you think we can collect a year? 450 million? Then he put it on his website. And then Bruce Rauner put it on his website. And then this guy was for marijuana, legalizing marijuana. So I am very proud of that I literally started that trend. And we're taking in $300 to $450 million a year in taxes for something that I feel that I at least kicked the ball over the net and started the ball rolling.
Absolutely. That's something to be proud of. We just need honest people in politics, I think.
Totally.
I mean, if everyone would just be honest, I think
Yeah.
things would
Yeah.
straighten up for us a little bit.
Yeah.
But we don't want to get too much into that.
No, I know that. Yeah, you're right.
So what I want to do right now, if it's okay with you, I want to have Ryan play the video of the
Okay.
Alien Interrogation, and I
Okay.
want you to kind of walk us through it.
Sure.
Because, I've sat and watched it, Ryan sat and watched it, but we don't have, the time and effort to go through it like you did. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we
I will
don't
give
have
the
the depth
I'll
of
give
research.
yeah, I will give the narrative from knowing all the facts now, or at least we believe what to believe the facts. This
right.
is one thing I want to get across to you and your listeners and viewers is that I hope people can appreciate I am one of the first UFO researchers since the 40s that tells you I don't know for sure. I'm just
Right.
on this journey. This is what was told to me. This is what I saw. Is it real? I don't know. This is my story. This is what I vetted. This is what one person said. It corroborates with another person. And I tell people, you make the decision. You make the call. I'm just telling you what was told and what I found. Please don't
Perfect.
think that I am ramming this down people's throats, that it's real or I believe 100% it's real. I don't. I still, after 5 years, can't conclusively say what the hell is going on with this video, the provenance of it, and what has happened to me personally.
Perfect.
All
All
right.
right. Let her rip, Brian.
Okay.
Okay, you are looking at the interview suite down underneath the S2 Site 2, the S2 Alpha Annex. This is the building above ground, and below the S2 Alpha, which is an administrative building, is S3 and the S4 complex. And this video took place down at the fourth level of S4. You are looking at a Type 3, they called an other gray. Type 1 is the gray alien with the almond eyes. Type 2 is a slightlier bone color alien with slightly almond eyes. This is the type 3 with round eyes uh, in a tan or bone colored skin. This is a haploid. Human beings are diploids. We carry two sexual chromosomes. This little guy carried only one sexual chromosome. His race, species, sexually reproduced, not with sexual reproduction. They are non-placenta beings. They do not carry a fetus in their body. They are some of them, some of the grays. This gray reproduces in vitrally, and some of the other grays reproduce with a kind of gland device, and the female has a female gland device. But this is not this species. Came to the S2 facility in 1989. I do not have any corroborating evidence of what crash or how he came. And I don't know if he actually crashed in 1989. All I can confirm is that he did arrive at the facility from wherever in 1989. This interview was from April 22nd, 1991 at around 3:15 in the afternoon. The Department of Naval Intelligence was inserting thought projection questions to this being. There was a line of other three-letter agencies ready to come in and insert their questions. You see a military aide on our right, a military Army general in Class A dress uniform is to our left once we lighten the film. You'll see the bizarre monitor to the beans in front of the bean. We still don't know what this is. These are the two medics. One researcher thinks that's Connie Mariano, a White House physician for Bill Clinton on the aliens right, aliens left, our right. The doctor on the aliens right, our left, has been identified by his widow, his second wife. He died in California sometime around 2014. I contacted his wife, his widow. She has identified him in this video, said he was secretive, would never talk about his time in the U.S. Army Medical Corps. So he was an Army medical doctor um, uh, taking care of this being. Funny again when I talk about corroborating people who don't know each other in different eras. Victor said about the medical staff, they are chosen more for their ability to keep secrets than their medical knowledge. 30
Sure.
years later, I contact a widow in her 80s, I think, or early late 70s, who the number one thing about her husband, who she says is the doctor on our left, is he was secretive.
Mhm.
A little weird, unless there's a
Yeah.
big conspiracy lasting 30 years from senior citizens to hoax a fat guy from Chicago. Um, it's pretty strange. So we have, uh, and I'll just go a little bit forward, jumping a little bit forward. We have proven with another two other podcasters independently
Mhm.
who Victor is, his face. He's not Bob Dean. It's not Bob Lazar. It's not Whitley Strieber. It's not the director. It's Dr. Victor Marchetti. He looks like a guy with fetal alcohol syndrome. He's got no upper lip, basically. And with his wig and beard, looks like a 1970s stock car driver, if you want my opinion.
Or a
Um,
werewolf.
a total, yeah, a total. I saw his picture. I'm like, Austin Powers, nerd alert, but a nerd that would be in like a bar with his members only jacket in the 80s. I'm not being derogatory, but a nerd in a bar in like California in the 80s going, hey, I got my used Corvette outside. I want to go take a ride down the coast. That kind of nerd who thinks he's, and I don't know why I derive this from him. But yeah, and I just tell skeptics because the UFO world, government, and Hollywood all told me and everyone else 30 years ago, if you find out who Victor is, well, you're going to find out about the film. If he's an actor, well, then this is a hoax. If
Mhm.
he's not an actor, God forbid, if he's a government employee or a retired government employee, what the hell are we looking at then?
Yeah.
Is a government employee carrying around and producing a hoaxed video and talking for hours about the alien retention program and going on Art Bell for an hour and a half, taking unrehearsed questions and coming
Mm.
back in an '08 documentary going, come on, why hasn't anybody found out who I am? Where are the FOIA requests? Why aren't you analyzing the film? Find the puppet maker. Prove the
Mhm.
alien's fake. Prove who I am. Come on. Come on, UFO researchers. I find that very hard to believe that that is actually an actor. And um, not jumping forward either. We're starting to get a expert in lie detection because Victor really doesn't show himself, so we can't do face movements and
Right.
facial movements. So simply based on verbiage and words, just the 9 minutes in the first documentary, this lie detection expert, okay, said that Victor did something Bob Lazar did not do, or Victor did not do something that Bob Lazar did do. Bob Lazar talked about the UFO craft as craft, saucer, it, object, the um, the uh, the he had five different definitions when he saw the craft inside the hangar. That is the hallmark of a liar or someone making it up. Victor describes the ET as alien or being in all three interviews.
Mhm.
Alien being, alien or being. And the lie detection person said that is somebody who is not telling a lie. When they describe the money shot, so to speak, if you're describing a plane crash or a UFO or an ET, the
Right.
money shot is the crash, the UFO, the ET. You would only describe it one way. He also, the lie detection expert, just with the 9 minutes, said that Victor is not reticent. He says, I don't know, maybe, possibly. Liars are emphatic because they want to drive the story, the hoax, the lie down your throat. I know for sure. yes, definitely. This is correct. This is it. This is real.
Sure.
And even the lie detection expert, even then in the 9 minutes, are like, I really thought this was going to be a joke. This guy is coming across like he is at least truthful.
Mhm.
And so it's just, this thing is organic, this investigation. It just keeps going on, and it's 5 years, and no one, no one in the government and Hollywood, UFO skeptics with any credible evidence that would pass a independent mediator investigator has come forward to me or anyone else and said that this is a hoax and this is why I know it's a hoax. And we find it hard to believe that after 30 years, this incredible animatronic doll, the guy or the woman that made this hasn't come forward in 30 years. Really? The alien autopsy,
Yeah.
that guy came forward in 3 days. I'm being facetious, but crazy. Nobody who did the catering that day for the production, nobody that did the wardrobe, nobody that made the monitor, the two doctors, if this was a hoax, they have never come forward. No one involved
Mhm.
in the person that rented the sound stage for this film, because they did shoot B-roll. Nobody's come forward. How do you
Mhm.
explain this? And we
Yeah.
now know Victor is not Bob Dean. So I'm throwing this back to the skeptics with a $2,500 challenge. Prove it's Bob Dean. I'll throw $2,500 in your bank account so fast it'll make your head spin. I've even told people, if you can prove with three aspects that it's Bob Dean sitting in that chair in the rocket interview, I'm going to fly to your house and hand you $2,500 cash. Haven't had any emails in about 3 days. So still
Yeah, I
waiting.
mean, I can't imagine that somebody that would take the time to put a puppet or a suit or whatever you wanna call it together could keep their mouth shut. I just don't
Thank
think
you.
they could. I think they'd have to
Thank
be
you,
like,
sir.
"No, no, no, this I made
30
this."
years later, 30
Yeah.
years later,
Oh,
you're
and
not
it
at a
would
pool
probably
party bragging to some girl, "Hey, I created that alien puppet. You wanna go home with me?" Hollywood
it
people are the biggest braggers in the world.
well, it would probably be worth a fortune too,
Yeah,
the actual
Yeah.
puppet.
yeah, where
So,
is it? I mean, we could put that on the auction block and probably sell that thing for $100,000 to a really, a UFO, a millionaire that's a UFO person that would love to have that in their collection. That is such a great point. Where is the puppet? Where?
Yeah. Somebody from like Jim Henson's company would definitely have said, I made it. We have it in this closet. I'll sell it to
Thank you.
Zach Bagans for his weird museum for 100
Thank you.
grand.
I mean, even the Patterson Gimlin film, who we hired the video expert, by the way. Okay. I went to the top. National Geographic hired him. I hired him too for this video. And even in the Patterson Gimlin film, we have 4 or 5 people saying, no, I was there on the camping trip. I wore the Bigfoot costume, whether it's true or not.
mhm.
We've got the people in the town. Are you crazy? We all knew it was hoax. Not one person in Hollywood. You mean the woman or the family or the husband? I'm trying to be gender neutral. Who did the catering that day? Because you can't have a production without food. Somebody who dropped off muffins or Kool-Aid and pop. They haven't come forward. Come on. I mean, Jesus
One
Christ, come on, folks.
one of
And I'm
the
not saying it's
things
real. I'm just like,
No, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, like we just talked about, we talk about it all the time that when someone says, "I don't know," that's such a powerful statement about their character because they're
amen.
willing to just admit, like, "Hey, let's fix this together. Let's find this together." They're
Exactly.
reaching out for help, whereas people
As
that
I've been
say they
doing.
know it all,
Yeah.
or the
Right.
people that just want to debunk, they've got it all
Right.
figured out already. But
Right.
one of the things that you focused on, because there's not a whole lot in this video to focus on
No.
aside from the actual alien and then the monitor. And you did a deep dive into the monitor. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, and I don't want people to fall off their chair because I'm going to tell you both sides, the special effects people. And so I called 3 experts that were doing their PhD on the history of physiological monitors, Space Labs that did monitors for NASA,
Mhm,
Hewlett Packard. I'll give you the elevator story. All of them said, we've never seen that before. We have
mhm,
absolutely no idea. The older man from Space Lab said it looks like a one off, where you would make a special device, one of a special device, that there's only one, and you would make it and create this and design it to help you solve a scientific or some kind of issue that you're working on, whether you're trying to find gold or see a planet in the sky or maybe monitor a weird physiological heart lung organ of a being. We've had other people in the special effects field, and don't fall off your chair. I'm not, I have to give both sides, right? If I have no credibility, who said, yeah, nobody's ever seen it because it's a fake monitor. It's two pieces of glass together with a light bar in between. So I go research and I'm like, okay, that's okay. So like that's why nobody knows about it because it's not real. It's two
Mhm.
pieces of glass. This was what was told me, and a light bar. And the light bar was bounced up and down with a servo. Okay. I go research light bars. I go research light bars in 2023. All of them have solid lights. Like there's not a like a drag strip, like a dot 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 dot. I could at least not find that in 2023. So how did you find it in 1996? Then guy that did the Patterson-Gimlin analysis sees that it's not two panes of glass together. It's molded metal around the monitor with a fin on top, a little bullet cartridge protrusion. Why are we making special designs in this metal if we're just fabricating to make it look like a why would you
Yeah.
make metal around it when the room is dark and no one is ever going to see it? They're just going to
Yeah.
see the light. Why would you do all of this extra stuff? I'm going forward. The little millimeter movements of the eyebrow. Why are you doing this on a 2-minute film, spending thousands of extra dollars putting radio control cables to move the eyebrow a little bit when no one's going to notice it 30 years later?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
why?
for Jay and
I
I,
don't,
I think the mouth movement was the one that got both of us. When you look really closely at the way it opens its mouth when it starts having these convulsions or whatever it is, that was it would be
unbelievable.
so
Like,
hard to make it, yeah, to make it so
right.
smooth, and there's no like obvious
Smooth.
crease.
There you
There's
go,
nothing.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's nothing that
You hear
makes
what
it
he
look like
said?
it's being
Smooth.
controlled externally.
Correct.
There's no like
I've seen,
rod or lines coming off of it.
yeah,
And
yeah. I've seen 2023 mouse open and it's still like, it's like it's still mechanical looking. And not only does this mouth open, folks, if you zoom up the face at the end, you're not going to believe how smooth, like Ryan said, the mouth goes. But at the one time, it goes open and then the bottom lip independently goes like a resting bitch face. How how is this happening? Guy's like, well,
Yeah.
there's somebody with a hand in the mouth, and I'm like, okay, how did they make the resting bitch face? Well, then there was a remote control cable that went downward, and somebody else behind the scene. Stop. Time out.
Yeah.
Stop, please. You're
Yeah. The
making me get.
mouth movement, when it was coughing, you could tell that it was at least at the very least a skin-like material because
Yeah.
the mouth was forming O's. It wasn't opening
Oh,
like
exactly.
a jaw would open on a puppet. It was
Exactly, which is what I've told FX people. It makes an O like a fish, like if you caught a bluegill, it makes an O, and you've got little ridges here, and it makes an O and closes seamlessly. I don't see any animatronic making the O that seamlessly, and then the lip going downwards. I'm not saying it's real. I'm saying, come on, what is going on here? Then they tell me it's an animatronic. Then the FX people tell me it's the static body, and somebody's got their head in the puppet. And then I ask them, well, the eyes have 7 shapes. What do you mean? I'm like, I can show you 7 stills where the eyes are round, kind of almond, round on top, flat on the bottom. Folks, do your own analysis. Then they're super round, and then they bulge when it's coughing. I mean, in
yeah.
96? Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, some people might point out, like, well, the effects in The Thing or Alien or Predator were fantastic, but those are multi-million-dollar Hollywood movies, like we're talking about. Like, that's the level you need to achieve that mouth movement or the eyes being wet and almost glittering like a real person's eyes would if they were in the dark like that, reflecting light.
Right.
It's,
And nonstop. There was no cut. This was one take.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's no
I don't know.
obvious point where they were setting anything back up. I never even thought of it being somebody whose arm isn't a puppet.
Yeah, but the
Because that
mouth
was,
is only like this big.
I know.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think any of that makes any sense because as soon
Right.
as I saw the way it's moving and it's being held by the two people,
Yeah.
they're shining the light on it. I mean, I just had no idea how you would fake that and have that
Yeah.
level of control over the face,
Right.
like the facial features and movements while the rest of the body is moving around. There's just so much happening at once. And like you said, so much detail that's just hidden.
And the director and the CEO have said for 30 years and have said to me for 5 years, because I've communicated with both of them, we did not make the 3-minute video. So I kind of know, I'm going to know for sure the dollar amount to the red penny. I kind of know what they paid Victor. How is Victor, who didn't drive, took a cab to the Rocket Studios, didn't drive? How is a retired scientist who didn't drive organizing this massive production? Sound, special effects, monitor, the calling the studio or the special effects people, wardrobe, catering, accounting, central casting, writing the script for Victor, which I have no idea because he knows things that were never known to anyone back in '96, like 27 being Yankee White, a security designation. That I just that Department of Naval Intelligence is a real agency.
Yeah.
This is just, it's just no one can explain this. And the skeptics, when I go on skeptical podcasts, are at the point about we're about to stick their fingers in their ear and go liar, liar, pants on fire. I mean, I don't know what else to do. And,
That's great.
folks, I'm just telling you what doesn't make sense. I'm not saying I know what's real. I don't
Yeah.
really know anything anymore. That's how bizarre this thing has gotten.
And that's, I
I
think,
think
kind of our stance is that we don't say that everything we talk about is true or real, or that our guests talk about is true or real. We just, it's like I always go back to this line that Q said in Star Trek Next Generation, where he's saying, I forget exactly what the line is, but he's talking about you're out here on this trek among the stars when you should be considering the possibilities of existence. Right. It's like there's a lot of possibilities out there. There's a possibility that even some aspect of the craziest stuff out there could be true. But this kind of stuff, I mean, I have an uncle who worked for McDonnell Douglas, and then I don't even know what company he worked for after that. They moved across the country. They were actually in Roswell for a while too, oddly enough. But I think it was when he was in Texas, maybe. He got really into this UFO stuff, thinking that there was more going on. I don't know if he suspected something based on what he was getting. I mean, I know guys like Bob Lazar, whether you believe him or not, say that the military will kind of parse these projects out. You're going to analyze this particular aspect of whatever we're looking at. So I don't know if maybe work was coming across his desk that made him suspicious, but one of his coworkers apparently had somebody show up, or two guys, what you would probably describe as men in black, show up to his house and just say, you really should stop talking about this stuff and looking into it. And they just kind of look behind them. He lived kind of out in the boonies, and they're like, there's an awful lot of land out here. It would probably be pretty hard to find you, something like that. Yeah. And his wife was like, you stop whatever it is you're doing, and then told my aunt, you stop him from doing whatever he's doing too, because I know they talk.
Yeah, so my wife has gotten almost to that point, but thank God no one's knocked on our door yet. So, but yeah, I get it. It's terrifying. I have been harassed electronically by the government, and it's very scary.
Yeah, and then the other thing that kind of struck me with the video, for some reason, and I don't know what it is, something about the interview itself feels a little hokey. I don't know why.
Totally agree.
Know if it's the voice changer or the way like the beard looks in the silhouette.
Well, it was added a little bit of an added beard, and it was definitely a wig. I asked Jeff Broadstreet 2 weeks ago. I'm like, why the clicking? And he's like, well, that was done in post production. He goes, I can't even explain it. He goes, I think it was because of the voice changer, and but that was done in post production. The question and then the clicking, and the fact that Victor, I think let's be real. No matter what Victor was bringing forward, I'm sure Jeff Broadstreet said, look, I need a little theatrics.
Sure.
At one point get pissed off and get up and, I'm guessing that's what I would have done. I'm like, I don't care if you have Jesus Christ being crucified on a 16 millimeter film, threaten me or something. Let's make this a little, because according to Jeff Broadstreet and Fox TV, who interviewed Victor before Rocket, Nobody thought to ask about Fox, where Victor went first. Victor was a pain in the ass. He was a little weird, very hard to deal with, very hard to get along. Um, I would think probably, and this is my speculation that, this interview's terminated when he's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like Jeff Broadstreet probably said, "Oh my God, we're going to be hearing a guy that's going to be about as interesting as somebody talking about algorithms and algebraic equations." And I'm sure Jeff probably said, at some point, threaten to leave or something like that. So I don't, this is Hollywood, folks. I mean, let's give everybody a break. But it was Victor that stopped me in '97 in my tracks, and I said, because I knew a lot of actors. I was on the periphery of the Boondock Saints,
Mm,
Troy Duffy and that whole group. If you know
great,
that
great
movie,
movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
when he exploded himself in Hollywood and told Harvey Weinstein to go screw himself. And I was completely, I had a good friend that was in that group. And he became a director actually. But, and so I knew a lot of Hollywood people, and everybody's like, it's not an actor. What kind of screenwriter before the advent of the internet and Google could note he uses the biggest thing was the bean starts to flag, medically flag. And I asked my
Yeah.
doctor because I had a checkup a week later, coincidentally. And my doctor said, "Where did you learn that term from?" I said, "It was on a documentary." And my doctor said, quote, he's like, "That's like a medical term I learned in like Korea in the 50s and late
Hmm.
60s, medically flagging." Freaking a 20-something-year-old screenwriter in Hollywood know a term from the 50s and let Victor. And then we find out Victor was in his mid 50s. So that would coinciding with him getting his degree in biology or his doctorate in biology, whatever degrees he had, because I don't know that for ascertained fact because he's been sheep dipped. It all makes sense. Like he would know 1950s, 60s terms because he was in the medical community or scholarly, physiological, biological community in the late 60s, early 70s. And, who would think to do that? I mean, it's just, come
It's a
on,
lot of
folks.
Yeah.
stretches.
Just
Everything's a stretch.
Well,
everything's a
and
stretch. Yeah.
yeah, and then the thing that brought me back, I mean, I don't know, man. For the periphery of the beard, it just reminded me of like Dr. Teeth and the Electro Mayhem for some reason. That kind of scruffy just
Yeah.
looked odd. But I guess you're right. If they're trying to make it harder to recognize him,
Yeah.
you would
He
add
did
some
have a
aspects
beard.
like that.
I can
Yeah.
say this. He did have a beard, and there was a lot of skin right here. But he's
Yeah.
got fetal alcohol syndrome, upper lip. He looks like a 19 with the wig. If you put a truck driver baseball hat on from the 80s, he would look like an ESPN broadcast. I don't mean to disrespect him. I've had people laugh with me. He looks like it's a Saturday afternoon in 1978 and they're showing a stock car race from Watkinsville, Alabama, and they're showing the lineup, and Victor's going to be on there with the baseball hat and the Chevrolet, in the Chevrolet, Nestle's Quick Chevrolet. It's 45 Victor. He just looks like a Southern good old boy.
Yeah.
Not. We know through his bio from conjecture stories and from our lie detection expert that he's a West Coast person. The lie detection person actually heard him say "man, man," and he's like, "That's like a hippie chick, man." He goes, "I am confident that he lived or was from California," and it's weird because that story, this guy knows nothing about this documentary. What does Jeff Broadstreet tell us? I picked him up for the 2008 interview. He took a cab to our offices in '96. I mean, you're not flying to California and taking cabs everywhere in 19. I mean, you're probably doing that because you live somewhere in the vicinity or the area.
Mhm.
Just,
Yeah,
But
just
yeah,
my belief.
his language brought me back around because I worked at a military contractor for a while, and we've talked
Okay.
to people who worked in that field with the military, with the CIA, NSA, stuff like that. He spoke in a very similar way to people who deal with classified military projects. And the logic in the interview where he's saying, "No, I won't say that I was
Wait,
in the
wait a
room."
minute. Wait a minute. Listen, folks, listen to this guy.
Yeah, he won't say
Somebody
I
from
was in the
Lockheed, I
room.
was on a
Or,
podcast, Ryan, he said the same thing you did. He goes, "This sounds like somebody that one of my supervisors that or
yeah,
somebody that would brief us on a special project." So I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah. No, I mean it's just that he knew not to say no. I wasn't in the room because that narrows down who it could be. Or he won't say I was or wasn't in the room. I did or didn't
Right.
know this. My assignment was or wasn't that. I mean, he was extremely logical and extremely evasive in a way that I don't think you would be. I mean, just you don't see that in Hollywood. You don't see that in TV shows or anything like that. You don't have a guy tied to a chair being interrogated and he's like, I can't tell you if I was or was not in
Right.
that room at that
Right.
time.
And even
So,
Ryan, he goes on the Art Bell show and he's arguing with Jeff Broadstreet, the director. He is arguing with Sean Morton because he read in one of Sean Morton's periodical newsletters that Sean Morton made a statement and Victor thinks it's wrong and he wants to correct Sean Morton. And then Victor goes nuts because they were one digit off on the phone number and the phone number was wrong. Is an actor causing this much commotion? No. A
Yeah.
dickhead scientist who's got a pendactic personality is causing that much commotion. Do you know
yeah.
anybody that's pendactic and scientific? They are just like Fox and the director Jeff Broadstreet said. Weird, pain in the ass, tough to deal with. I have
Yep.
dealt with pendactic people. They make you want to have tears in your eyes because no one could be that precise, but they have to because they're scientists. It's a
Yeah.
horrible trait to have as if you want to interact with people and have friends and be nice and there's a story that you can say is conjecture, but it was told to me that somebody that did know Victor and didn't want to identify him said, I would love to have him on my scientific team. I would never want to be his friend. Now, why would somebody from intelligence say that to me? Why?
That's pretty
Why are
funny.
all these people telling me the same damn story? This guy was a pain in the ass, not a nice guy, and he appears that way on every time he opens his mouth. It's a
Yeah,
jerk.
for sure. But I mean, that doesn't change the facts about anything either.
No, no, it does not.
There's a couple things that I wanted to talk to you about real quick, and I just want to make
Sure,
sure we get it in before the end of the
sure.
show because as I was looking around, just bumping around on the internet, I saw a comment by someone who claims that they're an alien abductee, and her comment was very powerful to me. It was just, I didn't know anyone else knew that they moved like that. End quote. And that was the end.
Whitley Strieber said the same thing. I'm going on a podcast from a gentleman in Germany. Thank you so much for bringing that up, by the way. I really respect that. And Ryan, thank you for bringing up how contractors and military people talk or whatever. I appreciate that. Daniel Groth, he's starting his podcast up again. He reached out to me 4 years ago. He goes, that's the being that I saw when I was abducted.
Oh
Not the
wow.
gray Allman, that guy. Whitley Strieber said that's how they move.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Another thing that I was thinking about I don't know if you've heard of a YouTuber named Thinker Thunker, but he
Yes,
mostly analyzes Bigfoot videos,
Bigfoot.
but he does a fantastic
MJ,
job.
I
And
think it's MK Davis, right?
MK Davis does do that. I'm a
Oh,
fan
but
of Thinker
Thinker Thunker
Thunker.
is not him. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do similar things,
Okay,
very
cool.
similar things.
Yeah,
But
I know of him. I've seen his videos.
yeah, maybe send it over to him because he has software that he
Absolutely.
can pull things out. And I know that the video we showed is a little bit different than what you've seen too, because ours is the version that's like darkened, right? What was
Yeah,
the
that's the
original
theatrical
version?
version. Yeah, Victor produces a
Yeah.
bluish tint screen of the being, and so yeah, I will definitely send it to Thinker. And for anybody of your viewers out there, I have astonished people because I run to the special effects people. Tell
Right.
me what you think, because I am trying to find the truth. I run to people like Stephen Cambion of Truth Seekers, who's one of the most ardent skeptics about everything. But I
Mhm.
can't learn. I can't learn anymore if I keep talking to people that tell me, "Oh yeah, you're the greatest and it's real."
Yeah.
No, 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 no. I want other objective opinions on it. So I will definitely send this to Thinker Thunk, and I appreciate that. I never thought to do that.
So when we're seeing this being, you talk a little bit about set dressing.
Yeah.
So we call him or I guess it's a him, right? We call them an off-planet being,
Yes.
or is it just a non-sexual being in general, like
Well,
genderless?
Victor says, and from what I've been told, that this is, it's again like just what Victor said, part machine, part biological entity, but not sentient,
Mm,
although appears to be sentient. They are created specifically for, astral travel and
okay.
they have this hive mentality of their planet that they come from. These are the things that we have been told about the Greys. The Greys come from the reticulum star system. What reticulum means the neck, because the one star is way out front. But the different types of Greys come from different, and I might be hatcheting this, different solar systems in the reticulum star system. So that's why this one obviously must have came from a different planet or a different solar system than the type 1 or the type 2, or whether the
Well,
type 1 created the type 3 that we see on the
um,
film.
that's a good
I
point.
that's way above my pay grade.
Yeah, I mean, but we see it with humans here on Earth. People that evolve to live in different environments evolve to
Right,
look quite a
right,
bit different too. And
right,
when you have an audience that pictures great aliens all one way, and I mean, as far as I know, if you just asked any random person what does an alien look like, they'd probably either say short gray, almond eyes, or tall gray almond eyes. If you
right.
were going to make it up, you would make one like that. At least I would. At
It's the
least
first thing I said.
try.
What am I looking at? Why isn't it gray? Why are the eyes round? It's the first thing I said. The
Hmm.
first thing I said when I saw it on TV. I'm like, what? It's the worst hoax in the planet. Why would you not make it look like a gray alien to take
Yeah.
the heat off yourself? Why? Are you making one that's terracotta with round eyes? What? It doesn't make sense. Just don't doesn't make sense. As weird as it sounds, I don't know what for the life of me why that is, unless that it's might be real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's also, I think we may have talked about it a little bit, but if you're a government and you want plausible deniability, you put the little fake screen in there, and they say, well, that's not even a real thing. These guys are making everything up. You
Yeah,
hide the real equipment in the shadows that you're using or
sure,
off camera. Um,
sure,
so if the government was doing this, they all know, hey, this is 100% real. I don't have to question it,
right.
but we can make it look questionable for people that aren't 100% sure. And that's kind of I guess, a shady way to hide things. But I mean,
Yeah,
you have to look at that
and
too.
And they also didn't prosecute Victor because they would this is what I was told, that this film is blacklisted by the Pentagon. You don't talk about it, you don't acknowledge it, you shrug your shoulders if anybody even mentions it. Blacklisted. And they didn't prosecute Victor once they did find him out in 2000, and I believe it was right around the 2008 after the second documentary. Um, because of discovery. What are you going to do? Drag him into court and
Yeah.
have discovery? Now you're giving legitimacy to the film.
Yeah.
If you're prosecuting him, the film is real. If you're not prosecuting Victor, then you're doing that because the film is fake. Very smart by the government. Very smart.
They usually have it all
People
figured
skeptics
out.
say, well, how could they not have figured out who Victor was? They did figure out who he was eventually, but they didn't prosecute him because for fear of discovery. Now, David
Yeah.
Rush tells us that people in those programs don't live by the same constitutional mores and laws that we live by in the real world. I don't know if that's true or not, but I have been told that this has been totally blacklisted by the Pentagon, which means you don't acknowledge, talk about it, you shrug your shoulders, you do. The Ralph Cramden. I don't. I'm gonna. I don't know. That's the third time I've mentioned the Ralph Cramden and the Honeymooners in this investigation. I won't tell the other time. So anyway,
So I'm kind of curious if you have any speculation as to if this is real, what are they doing? Like, what is the goal? I know they're trying to interrogate it. In the interview, Victor's saying that they're getting certain details that are being given to the engineers about the craft, but he's
right,
saying it's essentially like trying to, because of the language, barrier. They're using telepaths. They're using engineers. He said it's like trying to, I forget exactly what he says. It's something like it's trying to explain how to.
Explaining calculus and the grunts and screeches of a chimpanzee to a
Yes,
chimpanzee.
exactly, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
I mean, that's a great writer. If somebody made that
I
up, that's a
said,
great writer.
Ryan, my right hand to God. I have said since 97, if this is fake, that writer is one of the greatest writers of all time, and Victor is one of the greatest actors of all time. Where are they? So thank you for saying that. Yeah, well, I could tell you all these conjectural stories. They have been coming here for hundreds of thousands of years. So the intelligence community members in these programs have told me and other people. I hate to, we are not on the food chain. We are the fish, and we are the deer in the woods. And the aliens are the Department of Natural Resources. Yeah, they care about our future, reproduction, but nonetheless, it's we are in the zoo, and we are in the wildlife, and I've come to grips with that with my ego. I have come to grips that I'm not on top of the food chain anymore.
Mhm.
And sometimes the tagging and the examining goes good, sometimes it doesn't, but they really don't care about us. Yes, they want to, without too much tinkering, my language, to help human civilization move forward so we can move forward collectively into the galactic community. But I've said this over and over again: when they take a look at our society and they see somebody bashing someone over the head for a $10 toaster at Target on Black Friday, I don't think they think that we are ready to be part of the overall galactic community. I say that jokingly, but I am not joking. We
Sure.
are not ready by any stretch of the imagination. And a great story, which is conjecture, is that they are intrigued by our warlike, our emotions. They are, their complaint is we are too emotional, which causes war and religions and fighting and death and this climbing to the top of society. Yet they're also intrigued why a mother would crawl through a block of granite to save her child. They don't understand those, and so that those emotions also intrigue them. So,
Hmm.
pretty cool story if it's real. That one thing scares them, another one intrigues them. They don't have any emotion. They are emotionless. They are the beehive. Greatest explanation I've ever heard.
Yeah,
One thing
I
that you
agree.
tell
There
us.
were. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Oh, I was just, well, if you're going to talk about his statement, go ahead, because I have kind of another
No, I was just going to
avenue.
agree that we're not ready. I mean, this alien is basically like a kid who fell into a gorilla enclosure and got captured by us somehow, and he's being held. But it's like,
Right.
from the alien's
I'm not
perspective,
laughing at you.
of
So it's such a great statement.
it's reminding me of Avengers: Age of Ultron, where Ultron gains consciousness, comes to life, looks at the internet for 5 minutes, and goes, "Humans have to go."
Right.
This.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say one of the things that I really like that you bring up too, John, is that you say it's entirely possible that our government is being manipulated across the board by these beings as
Absolutely.
well.
Yes.
So it doesn't necessarily, I mean, maybe now we all know the government's up to no good 99% of the time, but maybe this is that 1% of the time that they are trying to do what they think is right for us by hiding it, and they're being manipulated by the aliens. So I think that
Yeah.
says a lot about where you're coming
True.
from too.
I dare anybody to find a podcast where I talk negatively about the government or the military. I don't. This is an incredible job. This is a crazy phenomenon that they've been trying to figure out for 80 years. And I know that they haven't figured out everything. I know they don't know the end result. I know they're confused. And the government's not going to come to the public and tell them they're flying in our skies. They've been here for 100,000 years. They've manipulated our DNA. We're the creation of them. Religion is kind of about alien intervention in the world, and it's misrepresented in some religion. There is a God, but it's not the God that takes attendance with a white beard. And we really don't know the ending of the story. Come on. Do you blame a colonel or a general in the Pentagon keeping the lid on it? I mean, I don't. Don't
Yeah.
say that I like that, but I don't blame them.
Right.
And
Right.
by saying that, I also say, but we got to come clean for just give me a little bit. Give the world an hors d'oeuvre and we won't come back for the main course. Just tell us that this is real. This is part of, maybe it'll, people say, you're Jon Stewart, you're going to destroy religions. I think it'll shore up religions to prove the Quran and the Bible and other cultures through antiquity that have said something came down from the sky, taught us, educated us, interacted with us, read with us. Genesis 6, our Bible, Genesis 6, they came down from the heavens and made it with the women of earth. So,
And there are a lot of
I
indigenous
think it's going to help
peoples.
religion. I think
Yeah.
it's going to help religion.
And there are a lot of indigenous peoples who claim that they came from the sky in some way or another.
Every
Like,
culture.
we came from somewhere else. We were brought here.
Right.
Whatever. There's a lot of variations on that from the Americas, Australia, all over.
Africa. Yep.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to cover, and I know we've got just a couple minutes here, but I think it's important that you tell us about your interactions with MUFON and To the Stars, because I think a lot of people, myself included, we look and say, okay, well, what's MUFON saying? They're on top of all this. They've got the best minds. They've got the best people on this. And then I hear, no, of course, sure. No, but then I hear about your experience and it's like, okay, well, who has an open mind then? Somebody's got to have an open mind out there.
Ryan, he's revving me up tonight. Sam Aranto is the Illinois director of MUFON. I sent him a letter. Hi, Sam. My name is Jon Stewart. I recently ran for governor of Illinois. I'm a small businessman in Illinois. And recently I have done a self-funded investigation into a bizarre film that was allegedly smuggled out. I am at a point where I don't know what is going on, but something is pointing to the fact that this might be real. I don't know who else to turn to because I don't know a lot of people. I'm paraphrasing.
Sure.
Sincerely, could we have a 5-minute meeting? Sincerely, Jon Stewart, former candidate for Illinois governor. No response. Second letter. Hi, Sam. Jon Stewart. I ran for governor. No, I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying it like, hey, look, I'm not got a little gravitas here. I got a little sway.
Right.
Yeah.
Second letter, nothing. National MUFON wrote him an email. Nothing. Not saying aliens are real. I got a video of an alien saying, could you help me? Could you give me some leads? Could you give me some names? Could you just hear what has happened? Any kind of tidbit. Nothing. So I'm not going to say anything else because I'm a gentleman. So there's MUFON for you. They're ignoring letters from people that ran for governor. Okay? Bless you. So,
well, you could send a report into them with video and pictures, and you think you've got it turned into this company or this organization that's going to, disseminate it for you. And it's like, they might not even look at it.
And I don't care about calling Sam Aranto out. I tell the truth. I don't give a shit. I don't care what happens. But you're ignoring a guy that ran for governor who's asking for your help. However I worded it, was very gentlemanly, very polite, non-hyperbolic. To the Stars Academy, same thing. Now, I have communicated personally with Dr. Hal Putoff, who's been very patient with me. I've communicated with Dr. Kit Green once. I've communicated with Tom Kelleher, Bigelow's assistant, who almost called the Las Vegas police and had a stalking order on me. I emailed him so much. I'm joking, but I emailed him so much. I'm like, this guy is going to arrest me for stalking. But to the Stars Academy, I emailed them twice. Every time I email them, same email. Hi, my name is Jon Stewart. I'm a former candidate for governor and for United States Congress. Kellyanne Conway I was her first political client, trying to get some sway. Mm-hmm. I'm into this really bizarre investigation. And all I get back from To the Stars Academy is send us, here's our fundraiser page. Right. We need to be funded. Money. I went, that's it. I got done. I'm not cutting them down. I'm just telling you my experience. And people hate that, but that's what I am. I'm just telling you what happened. And that's what happened with To the Stars and with MUFON. I don't want to give Italian verbiage right now, what my mother would say. God, or it's like, nothing, nada. So that's a shame.
That's
It's a
that's
shame.
sad. That's sad.
Sad.
Now
Sad.
you've written some books too, right? Can you just
I wrote
run
one book.
over?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can
Came
you
out in
just give us a
November of,
breakdown?
sure, sure. And I came out in November of 23. One day I saw the UFO hunters on History Channel or whatever, and they were talking about a second crash at the same time of the Roswell crash. And I
Hmm.
went, I thought I heard about this 20 years ago. Maybe I didn't. So I go on the internet, and they only talk about one witness, really. So I go on the internet, I find this story here. 40 minutes later, I find this story over here, this witness over here. 2 days later, I see that it's mentioned here, and I'm like, you know what? For my first book, so the skeptics don't rip me apart, I'm just going to collect all of the witness accounts who claim they saw the second crash, and that's all I did with some colorful writing. The book is called Magdalena, the Second Roswell Crash. It's on Amazon. If you'd like to buy it, that's great. Um, and I gave a little blurb at the end of maybe who I think the needle kind of points to, what witness testimony the needle kind of points to, of maybe who should give the most credence to. But I just simply tell everyone's story and just leave it at that. My wife was like, you're not finishing the chapters. I'm like, I don't want to finish the chapters because then it's my opinion. I don't want it to be my opinion. So, it kind of like cuts and just goes to the next person and the next person. There's some nice quotes on each chapter. I think people would enjoy it. And again, it's the first time ever someone has put together all 6 witness accounts of the Roswell crash. And now we have in the Ronald Reagan briefings that they claim there was 3 crashes. And now we have somebody else that just came out, and I didn't write the name down, who claims about these like a pulse weapon or something like that. I have to go back to the video. So maybe there's a second edition in there to add these stories too. But I just really thought if I was frustrated, other people might be frustrated or appreciate that I just, accumulated these stories and just put them in a book. It's a real quick read. It'll take you an hour and a half to read it. And it's interesting what other people say.
Sounds interesting. Would you be willing to come back on at some point and just talk about that book?
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah, because
I know you're super busy right now covering
I
all this
am.
stuff, but you've got an open invitation. If you ever want to come back and talk about
I
anything,
appreciate
just
that. Yeah,
absolutely, just shoot us an
that book,
email.
as my wife says, that book is the first class ticket to the crazy train. I know my investigation is the crazy train. It's a second class ticket. The
Yeah,
Magdalena book, the stories in there of these people, that's the first class ticket to the crazy train. So
right on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
And
we
now
got
you're
to
here
some of
check
talking
the
that
to
out.
us.
stories are unbelievable.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to wrap up with, John? Tell them where they can get in touch with you and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you want to go to my YouTube channel, you don't have to like, click, or subscribe. I don't monetize. I don't think it's monetized. I don't ask for money. I'm not that, but I do think you should support YouTube creators because content creating is a full-time job at times.
Yeah.
So yeah, the YouTube channel is Hunting Victor Documentary. If anybody wants to email me with anything pertinent, which has happened, and it's great, anything pertinent on this story or the phenomena that they think might be relevant, my email is Jon, Jon, without the H, my middle name, Alan, Alan, Stewart, Stewart, at AOL.com. Yes, I'm an old guy. I still use AOL. So cue the jokes and the laughs and the rim shots. So, but thank you for having me on. Again, I just want to tell your viewers and the keyboard skeptical warriors, I just telling you what happened to me in the stories and vetting these sources, and you have to take it from there. And even when the documentary comes out, you're just going to have to take it on your own and figure out what you believe, not what I believe. I know people
That's
appreciate that.
yeah, that's words of wisdom that
Yeah.
we kind of like to end on to, do
Great.
your own research before you go
Correct.
tear somebody down, go
Right.
come up with the alternative. So, all right. Well, that's all we've got for you tonight on Cryptique. Special thanks to the illustrious Jon Stewart for putting this video on Front Street. Ryan, what are your final thoughts on this?
I think I'm in line with John.
Mm-hmm.
The more I looked at this, the more times I watched it, the more I was convinced that is unlikely to be fake, I guess, is probably the way I'm willing to put it right now. Because at first, like we were talking about during the interview part of that video seems so hokey and cheesy and, unsolved mysteries kind of, it looks almost as though, and maybe this is what that's probably not what they did. I was going to say, it almost looks like they had a real interview and then had somebody read the transcript of it.
Yeah.
In a different way. It just seemed very strange. But then the video itself, the way the eyes reflect light, the way they're obviously, imperfect on the surface, and the way kind of the light glitters, the way the skin looks, the way it looks like it's oily or whatever the way skin would be. There are too many things that were done too well for it to be just totally a hoax. What do you think?
I think that if it was a hoax, they did a masterful job.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if it was a hoax, they would have come out by now. What are my dogs talking about up there? They're not even barking. They're just like, "Ruh, ruh, 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 ruh." I think that if it was a hoax, though, I believe they would have done more of the body, or at least made a hand come up, something that was like that aha moment type thing. While when the alien's coughing, it's kind of down in the corner of the screen and it's not zoomed in on. If you have, software that you can do, then definitely zoom in and look. But I think that they would have made a hand come up, or maybe had him turn his head to the side, maybe cough something up instead of, just kind of like they're wiping around his mouth and nose and stuff like that. I think that he would have actually coughed up something and shown a hand or something if it was a hoax. But
yeah, I think I know where you're going, because I was kind of thinking the same thing. Like the aspects of it that are really convincing are not obvious.
yeah,
The mouth movements, the eyes, the skin, those things make it look. I mean, even the gradation in the skin color, it's not a uniform color. It's not like they had a block of like foam rubber and carved this thing out of it or anything, and it's all one uniform color all the way around. It varies as it goes from like the head down towards the eyes, towards the mouth.
Yeah, I would like to know. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just totally non-obvious. Like these details that make it realistic, you have to really pay attention for. And I don't know. It really does seem like somebody who didn't intend for this to be seen by somebody who wasn't supposed to see it. And if somebody did see it, there were obviously things that they didn't want you to be able to view within that frame, which is why it was so dark.
Yeah, and I mean, for all we know, that blinking light could be a lie detector. It could be a million different things. It doesn't have to be a heart monitor. I know that it reacts differently when the subject is reacting with coughing or moving, but I think that there would be that moment. And although I believe that the Patterson Gimlin film is real, there is that moment where she turns and looks, and that's that moment. You know what I mean? That's the money shot that he was talking about. And there's not really a money shot in this one. And that kind of makes me think that, it's got an air of authenticity to it, since there's not that Hollywood moment.
Right. And with the equipment, the way John was talking about, it's not standard stock off the shelf stuff. It would have taken effort. I mean, if I was going to do it, I would go to, I don't know, some kind of electronics resale place and get an oscilloscope and just put it up there, because normal people day to day don't see tools like that. They're not going to know what that is. It looks scientific. It would not look out of place in a scene like that. But he's saying this is not what that is. This is not what it's behaving like. This is something that's probably custom.
Yeah. Yeah. The one of, I do think that there was more going on in that video, and I wish that we could see some of the other equipment. We didn't get a chance to ask him about the ports behind the subject. There's things that look like square windows, almost like they're screens. I mean, you can pop the video back up if you have it handy. But there's the square ports that are behind the being, and it looks like there's depth. They don't look, it looks like they're cutouts in the wall, almost with a monitor of some sort behind them, where maybe someone who's in the room can see back into that port and see what's going on that screen, but we can't see it with the camera. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they're not angled for the person sitting where the camera is.
And that could be a lot of things.
Observing. Yeah.
One of the things that crossed my mind is when you're setting up a scene for an interview, you have to have some light coming from behind, and it's got to be, it can't be like direct light into the camera, but you have to have it to frame the person, because if you just have the light from in front, it makes them look all weird and shiny and reflective and stuff. But if you have light coming from the back, it softens all that. So that, to me, I would like to know more about it. It's a little bit of a red flag. And I'll be honest, when I first saw the video, now when I looked through it, several more times, I kind of changed my opinion. But like as it sits right now, it almost looks like it's just a video being projected onto a wall.
Sure.
So, but I mean, there's, he doesn't deny that. He doesn't, try and make excuses for that.
Right.
So, but yeah, I don't know what those could be. And I mean, obviously, we don't see a lot of alien interrogation videos. So maybe it's something that's at every single one of them, or maybe it's set dressing. I don't know. But I believe that Jon is 100% legit. I don't think that he's BSing about anything. I think that he's excited and probably in his heart of hearts wants it to be real, as do I. But I think that there's enough here that we cannot dismiss it as a hoax. And that's why we're telling you to watch the video. Don't just look at it for 2 seconds and say, fake, and look away. Really look at it and challenge yourself. And you pull out what you think is fake. And let us know at cryptiquepodcast@gmail.com. You can check out our merch at cryptiquepodcaststore.com. And you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/PI. And remember, the discovery of extraterrestrial life would be the most significant event in human history. And I'm prepared to bet, I think it's a good bet, that it will happen in the next 20 years, at least according to David Darling. Good evening, Crypt Keepers. Boom.